Let's do the Dallas Mavericks.
Do you think they're upset that they didn't get to go first, like always when we do these podcasts? You think Nico Harrison just in his office in the fetal position, bawling his eyes out?
They've had to wait for too long. So the 50-win Dallas Mavericks are not really a real thing because that factors in what they were before they remade the roster. They closed with a 12-3 record. I don't know if you remember this, Dan. They made something called the NBA Finals. And so I don't view them as a 50-win team as like a baseline. I think they're better than that. And so I just, as a starting point, it's like, well, we should be talking about them as if they were a 54-win team or something, something higher than that. So from that sense, it's just like, well, the questions need to be, how much better does Derek Lively get? Is this the year Luka's in shape and like really cares? Because if it is, then we're talking 60 wins or whatever. Like it's just, that's the thing hanging out there of like, there's another level for Dallas, and it's if Luka like remakes his body. I'm not banking on it. That's a possibility. And then I think maybe we differed a little bit on this, so maybe you could take it after this. Is the trade-off of Derek Jones Jr. basically instead of him, Klay Thompson, Najee Marshall? Is that an addition or a subtraction? Go ahead. I'm saying they're going to be better. I'm just not totally sure on that last point, and I know you have some thoughts on it.
I'm pretty bullish on what they did this offseason because I think you can make the case that Klay Thompson plus Najee Marshall is just better than Derek Jones. I mean, in a vacuum, yes, but for when you're measuring fit, I think there's still a case. What I think people have overlooked that they also did is in the process of getting off Tim Hardaway Jr. is they brought in Quentin Grimes. Okay. And so that is someone who can absolutely defend the point of attack if he's healthy. And so, like, I don't think they're going to feel the absence of Derek Jones Jr. quite as much as people think. It might make them have more of an offensive leaning identity, particularly in closing time. If we assume that it's going to be Klay Thompson plus PJ Washington, Luka, Kyrie, and then a big, sure. But if you're not going to give a chance to Najee Marshall or Dante Exum or Quentin Grimes to get those minutes, I understand maybe your concern there, but I think it's okay to lean into your offensive identity when you have Luka and Kyrie. Mm-hmm. And I think the stuff they're going to be able to run with Klay, just flying off screens. And you said it with the Warriors that Klay was bad last year. I think defensively he was bad. And honestly, I wouldn't even say he's bad. He's old.
His shot selection was trash, but he still had the gravity, which is what you're getting to.
Right. And I think it's easier for him to accept a different role or to live in a more confining role outside the Golden State bubble where he has all that history. And it's not just he has that history, but the two other guys he came up with, Draymond Green and Steph Curry, they are still just mission critical and kind of playing their same roles for the most part. And so it's easier for him to make that functional adaptation in Dallas, and he will. Just like, and also I think what makes it easier is Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic are just inherently more ball dominant than anyone on Golden State last year, except for maybe Chris Paul in his heyday anyway. So I'm pretty bullish on their offseason. I think it's because so much of it happened early on, but it feels like it's flown under the radar. I do think you'll miss having Derek Jones Jr.'s athleticism and just like, hey, you just go defend so-and-so. Like you can move them up the positional spectrum in a way that you probably can't with Najee Marshall or Quentin Grimes, where they're at two different ends of the spectrum. At the same time, they just have the ability to be massive. Klay Thompson is 6'7", and you have PJ Washington, you have a big. Luka Doncic is huge. In the lineups without Kyrie Irving, if you want to play Klay and Najee Marshall with Luka, PJ Washington, and Derek, you're just huge.
Yeah.
And so I think this team is, I wouldn't go 60 wins. I never predict a team to win 60 wins. Right. I need to be better about doing that. But this feels like 55 plus win territory to me. So even if you're using that 54 wins as a baseline, it's harder to answer this way, but I'd probably still go better.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think mid 50s feels, I don't know if it's conservative, but it feels like that's a totally defensible number. And we just need to get over 50. So I think easy enough, I think, for the Mavs. Speaking of, is it my turn? Let's just do the Wolves now because they also won 57 last year. If you had to, well, maybe let's start here. If you had to guess if I'm going to say better or worse, what would you guess?
I think you're going to say worse.
You're wrong. I'm saying better.
Wow.
And it's a hard one, and it's not as like analytical as I think we like to try to be. And it's mostly just Anthony Edwards is that guy, and I don't think he's anywhere near topped out. And I don't think that there's a reason to believe the defense will be meaningfully worse. I know I just said the Thunder will have the best defense. I think Minnesota is going to be right there. And if you combine what might be the second, third, whatever, maybe the best, if I, have to backtrack a little on OKC defense with, I just think Anthony Edwards is going to be better, which is a high bar to clear. I think they're going to be motivated too by, especially Edwards, I think is kind of a chip on the shoulder guy, like thinks he's the greatest justifiably sometimes, is going to want to take another step forward in terms of how deep this team goes. The downside is a Conley injury is still a problem, even with Dillingham there. I just can't count on a rookie, even if he seems tailor-made for the role he's going to play to really be a meaningful guy. It's just Ant and the defense. So I'd open it up to you to go with any other angles. And I'm open to, like, Grant, you're stupid. They're going to be worse. They were way too good last year. You have to pick worse. That's a good argument too. But it's Ant, it's the defense.
I would probably lean worse just for what you just said. And I think, look, Rudy Gobert, 32, had finger surgery. We just found that out today. Does that impact him at all? Or is he
still got 9 more? That's fine.
There you go. That's fine. Mike Conley's older in addition to the injury risk. Do we see kind of him take a step back? And the other thing is, you mentioned him, Rob Dillingham. Yeah, he seems perfect for what they need. And a lot of people have made much ado about his size. He's 6'3". He's not like we've seen 6'3" players before be just fine. And this team, I think offenses will attack him, but they're just built to insulate him. I'm more concerned with the idea of, for what you gave up, he's entering training camp or the season as your backup point guard. And to give a rookie higher stakes minutes on a not a could be, but a will be championship contender, that's always thorny. And you look at him, and I think in Summer League, we might see adjustments, of course, when he gets to the regular season, but the theory of him makes so much sense. Someone who will get off the ball quickly. He will make shot. He'll create his own jumpers. He'll make jumpers off a catch, but, like, he's not going to get all the way through to the paint against NBA length and size. And if you view him as someone that you want to play during the non-Ant minutes, I think what's going to wind up happening is he's going to face a lot of blitzes, a lot of doubles, and then they're just going to force other players on the court at that point to beat them. And if Ant's not on the court, who is that? And, like, yes, the Timberwolves ran into those same problems without Anthony Edwards last year. I'm just not sure, like, long-term, maybe Rob Dillingham addresses what's their biggest need, but they're in this weird territory. And I think it'll be easier to button up once you get to the playoffs. But for the regular season specifically, I might frame it this way. I think the Wolves will probably be a bigger threat to win it all next year, but they're going to win fewer regular season games. And part of that might just be, do they not care about winning as many regular season games as they did last season? But to your counterpoint, we didn't mention Jaden McDaniels. He can't have a worse offensive season than he did he came alive during the playoffs, but he probably is not going to get worse. So, and I mean, if Cat doesn't suffer an injury towards the end of the year and you have to integrate him, I think that this team's championship stock, I would say it's pointing upward, but just in terms of winning more regular season games, I have a tougher time of it's possible. Don't get me wrong. I just have a tougher time getting there.
I think you've made the better argument. I think we got to go worse. How much of a pain in the ass is it for you to change the graphic that some tiny percentage of people listening to this will see?
Wow, you need to pump it. We're the most popular podcast in the world.
I forgot about that.
It's already been changed. I think that's the right call, and maybe they'll live to outperform us. This is, by the way, doing this without looking at over-unders is incredible. I've been trying to steer clear of those. People are starting to come out with the over-under pods. I have not listened or, like, really dissected into it. I'm going to be fascinated to see where their over-under winds up.
Yeah, we should keep this in mind when we do that, or just because it's always such a different exercise, the over-under, because the number is almost every time it's like, oh shit, that's exactly how many wins I thought they were going to have. Okay, cool. That was the Wolves. You got two teams to choose from.
Ooh,